Hayden Christensen has returned to Star Wars twice now in just over a year, and fans are now wondering if we're going to see Anakin Skywalker return once again. Well, settle into your X-Wings, because the man himself has spoken on the potential of him returning for a third time since the prequel trilogy.
This is where the fun begins.
However, I have to say, unfortunately, there is also a possibility that his appearance in Ahsoka Episode 5, and I guess the season final, is actually the last one.
What?
So let's take a look at this article now on comicbookmovie.com. Now, he was recently on a podcast called The Dagobah Dispatch, and it's been summarized nicely in this article for us to go through. So it's titled Ahsoka star Hayden Christensen reflects on latest Star Wars return and whether he'll be back in future projects. So after Star Wars Revenge of the Sith was released in 2005, Hayden Christensen only appeared in a handful of movies and struggled to shake off the massive shadow cast over his career by the time he spent as Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. As the years went by, he started taking on fewer roles, making his comeback in 2022's Obi-Wan Kenobi. Earlier this year, Christensen took center stage as Anakin in Ahsoka, receiving widespread critical acclaim for his supporting role and plenty of love from Star Wars fans, and quite rightly so. Now, the actor is thought to be gearing up for a return to acting, and recently spoke with the Dagobah Dispatch podcast, where he reflected on his latest stint as the iconic character. Now, I just have to say, it's an awful shame his involvement in the prequels negatively impacted his career afterwards, and I did see him in some projects that came out shortly after Revenge of the Sith, and it's quite clear that he's a very talented actor. But it's also quite ironic, isn't it, how his first appearance in Star Wars negatively impacted his career, but now his return to Star Wars with Kenobi with Ahsoka has seemed to kickstart it again, as it's recently came out a couple of weeks ago that he's signed back on with his old agency that launched his career and actually got him the Star Wars gig in the first place. So we could be seeing more of him on our screens going forwards. So Hayden goes on to say, I really wanted to bring to life what was on the page. What Dave wrote was just so exciting. I was getting to play versions of this character that I hadn't done before. When we meet Anakin in the World Between Worlds, it's me getting to play, I guess, the totality of Anakin and Darth Vader. Just an understanding of everything that he's been through and getting to do that. And when we go back to the Clone Wars flashback, that was just awesome. Now, so many people were hyped after Anakin's appearance in Ahsoka Episode 5, and quite rightly so, it was dope. However, what gets me is not many people are talking about the significance of that character's return in that point in the timeline. This is the first time we've seen Anakin or Darth Vader since Return of the Jedi. It's not like we're going back like we did in the Kenobi show to look at Anakin or Vader as we've already seen them, you know, as a Padawan where he's training with Obi-Wan. Effectively, we saw him in that era in Episode 2, or as Darth Vader, which we saw all the way through the original trilogy. This is a version that comes afterwards. This is a completely new version, and I was just hyped to see Anakin post Return of the Jedi. And it's certainly a version of the character that I would like to see again going forwards. Christensen went on to explain what it was like working on Star Wars without George Lucas calling the shots. The legendary filmmaker cast him as Anakin in the early 2000s and helmed both movies he appeared in, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. So at first I felt like I was cheating on him a little bit, but no, it's a different time for Star Wars now. And I think it's really exciting that we now have this period where there are other storytellers coming in and giving their take on the universe. But of course, it all goes back to the maker, and George Lucas is very much at the front of everyone's mind when we're making decisions. We want to make stuff that he would be happy with for sure. And you have to think it's a massive positive for any actor that was involved in Star Wars under George Lucas, then returns after him as well, to have people like Dave Filoni on board who really wants to carry the torch forward for that legacy that George Lucas created, rather than just completely strip it away and do something completely different and just slap Star Wars over the front of it. It would have been easy and understandable for the actor to turn his back on this galaxy far, far away. Instead, he's embraced the role once again, decades after first playing Anakin, reminding everyone just how underrated his work in the prequels was. Looking to the future, Christensen sounds ready and more willing to play Anakin and Darth Vader again if Lucasfilm asks him. I would love to get to do more. I'd love to get to continue with Star Wars. We'll see. I don't know what the future holds. If such an opportunity presents itself, I'll be there with a big smile on my face. If it doesn't, I feel really grateful for getting to come back and do the work that I did, both in Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. We're sure we'll see Anakin continue to appear as a Force ghost in Ahsoka moving forward, and beyond that, Lucasfilm would be nuts not to release a Darth Vader movie or limited series. Like Christensen though, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But yeah, essentially part of the reason why there's no return date in sight for Hayden Christensen at the moment is all because of the projects that they've got coming out at this point in time. He wouldn't really fit in to Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, Mandalorian Season 4, Andor Season 2. He could potentially fit in with Ahsoka Season 2 if they do go ahead and make that, or Dave Filoni's Heir to the Empire movie that ties into Ahsoka pretty well, or even the Rey New Jedi Order movie. That would be a pretty interesting one where he returns as a Force ghost alongside Luke Skywalker. But essentially the reason there's no return in sight for him right now is because, as I say, it's the projects they got coming out. He wouldn't really fit into the majority of them stories. But that being said, he's returned twice now within the space of just over a year, so he's definitely in favour over at Lucasfilm at the moment. And like mentioned here, I think a Vader series on Disney Plus would be pretty cool, where he's hunting down Jedi. There's a lot of stories there to be told for sure. Or they could give him a live action Clone Wars show and bring back Ariana Greenblatt, who played the young Ahsoka. She could be Ahsoka and he can be a younger Anakin. That would be pretty cool as well. I mean, if they're going down the route of just telling random stories scattered across the timeline, like with the Lando movie, they're really missing the ball by not doing a Vader one or an Anakin one. But I think in the long term, away from just one-off shows and whatnot, Lucasfilm should really be trying to build out a bigger story, like they've effectively done with the Mandoverse, to be honest with you. But what comes after that? Are they going to continue after Episode 9 and build out a bigger story there? Or are they going to continue from where the Acolyte is and build a High Republic story, which can be loads of TV shows, movies? I think that's the direction they really want to take. They want to build something bigger, rather than just have one show here in the timeline, one show over there in the timeline. Of course, you know, we'll keep a close eye on developments and I'll drop another video if anything does come out in the future. But in the meantime, I'm interested to know, what type of show would you like to see Anakin Skywalker return in? Would it be a Vader show? Would it be a Clone Wars live action show? Let me know in the comments down below. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you're new, leave a like on today's video. If you enjoyed it, I'll catch you in the next one. May the Force be with you.